Okay, got it. Great, great. Oh yeah, I see Amy. Okay, great, great, because that's where we're starting. We're starting with Amy. Great, I think everybody's plugged in. Okay, good. Well, welcome everyone to our hearing on the past primary. And being that we got off a little bit late, not too late, but a little bit late, why don't we start move quickly to Amy and her report, and I'm sure she's got some information that she would like to give us as far as the status is concerned, and we all would like to hear it from her. Amy, you're on.
Okay, well, thank you, Zoilo. As our custom, I'll give a oral description of myself. I am a middle-aged white woman who is bald and wearing a black headscarf and a scoop neck black t-shirt, sitting behind a blurred background of an office. So good night and welcome everyone. We're welcome to our hearing on the primary. I just have some brief announcements. So my big news is that after 16 years of leading the campaign finance board, I will be retiring in early October. We have accomplished so much together over the past 16 years. Our public financing program is the envy of the nation. We just completed the largest election in the city's history. The greatly expanded matching funds program gave out more than $126 million to more than 300 candidates. And what did that mean? Well, that means a breathtakingly diverse city council, which is now majority female for the first time ever. I'm very proud of the role that the CFB played in that transformation. Over the past 16 years, we have expanded the CFB's mission in significant ways. We have implemented the strongest pay-to-play contribution limits in the country. We've established one of the strongest independent disclosure requirements in the country. And we've vastly increased our voter education mandate, taking a leading role in rolling out the ranked choice voting last year. And we are currently working on the new city-only voting and are expanding the language and accessibility mandates in the city law. Also making this Voter Assistance Advisory Committee part of the CFB, moving it into in 2011. Of course, this was all done in close partnership with many around the city, with the city council, whose legislation we implemented, and with our good friends and good government advocacy groups who supported and held us accountable to do our work in the best possible way. I'm really proud of how the CFB staff has managed this growth. We've put in process new budgeting and finance processes, an audit risk-based analysis for performing our post-election audits, more rigor in our data analysis for decision-making, new technology project priority setting procedures, and now with 2021 in our rear window, we are looking forward to creating a 5-year strategic plan. Personally, I have found my work at the CFB incredibly satisfying. Working at the CFB and leading its mission of improving New York City's democracy has been the greatest honor and privilege of my life. I'm happy to end with the biggest election in the history of our program and with the anticipated issuance of our post-election report. What is going to happen now between now and October is the board will be conducting a wide-ranging national search befitting our nationally recognized agency. I will be assisting the board in its search and as it makes its hiring decision. But as the act says, the board will be making the decision of who is new executive director. I will be working with the board members, with the staff, and with all of you to ensure a smooth transition for all of our stakeholders, voters, candidates, and good government groups alike. So thank you all for your support of me, and thank you all for the support of the mission of the Campaign Finance Board.
Thank you, Amy. Thank you for that report. I know in my discussions with the VAAC members, they have nothing but praise for the work that you and your staff has done over the years. And it certainly has made my work a lot easier. I really appreciate that. And, if anything, everybody has basically said that they very much are happy with the work of the staff led by you. And hopefully everything will go well for you in the near future. I
Thank you
think
very
that-
much. And I mean, the staff really deserves all the credit.
Thank you. Is there any other VAC member or members of our meeting now that would like to make any comments at this point? The floor is open.
Can I just jump in very quickly? This is Chris Malone. I'm a white male, middle-aged, graying hair, clear rim glasses. I'm wearing a white shirt with some blue checkers and tan shirt. I'm sorry, tan jacket. I just want to thank Amy. She has been just an amazing icon of New York City for, more than 2 decades in her position, various positions with the Campaign Finance Board. And I shared in an email that I think I first met her around the 2001 campaign finance cycle or city council cycle, with massive turnover due to term limits. I don't know, maybe 200 candidates that cycle. Amy, you probably remember better than I do. And that was a huge expansion of the mission because of the number of candidates and the matching funds. And I don't think people thought that CFB would last, because it was such not a new thing, but a novel way to approach municipal elections in the biggest city in the country. And, because it's lasted and because it's grown and because the mission has expanded, I don't think it could be understated or overstated that you had a major role to play in that. So you just have enormous respect from the public, people that you've never met and never known, and you didn't look for the spotlight. That's your style. But you're a real inspiration. It's been an honor to work with you.
Thank you, Chris. You said it better than I could have. I saw a little note from Danielle. Is Danielle with us? Danielle, would you like to say a couple of words?
I could just say what I said in the chat, which is that Amy's work, especially in these troubling times, everything that you've done over the years, Amy, to preserve and enhance democracy is so admirable and so necessary, and never more necessary than now. It's amazing to think that, before, we always talked about what a great job you and the staff did and how wonderful it was. But over the past 4 or 5 years, it's really just become ever more clear how essential it is. And if we could clone you and send you out to all of the troublesome states, that would be even better. So thank you for everything. And we really do, I really do wish you all the best in whatever you decide to do next.
Yeah. Thank you, Danielle. Anyone else that would like to comment? Going once, going twice, going 3 times. I think we can move now into the main portion of our meeting tonight, which is the post-election hearing, which is very much dependent upon the participation of voters that we would like to hear from. In the way of introduction, I should have said at the beginning, and I'm still not used to these introductions, but I am Soylo Torres, appointed by the past mayor as the chair of the VAAC, the Voter Assistance Advisory Committee. And I am Puerto Rican, of African descent. born and raised in New York City, basically raised in Brooklyn. And I'm looking forward to the work that we can do together, particularly in these times that are changing very rapidly, and things are happening that at times we do not foresee. We would like to hear from the voters tonight or this evening on their experiences with particularly the absentee ballots, the in-person early voting, the in-person voting on election day, which was on voting day, which was yesterday. And also before I forget anyway, that there is still another primary coming up in August. I believe it's August 23rd. Eric, is it the 23rd that it's coming up?
That's right.
The next primary? Yes, okay, August 23rd. So we still have work to do, people to meet and people to reach out to. So that's August 23rd, and it will cover our congressional delegation and also the state Senate. We're also coming off on the heels of a recent Staten Island or Richmond County judgment or ruling that basically declared the municipal voting law that was recently enacted by the city council void or no. It's unless that decision gets overturned. The municipal employees of the municipal election law will not be implemented anytime soon. And so in that context, with that frame, we are entering into these hearings, and we would like to hear from the voters. And if you see any hands up, we will pick them as soon as we see them. So Eric, do you want to begin to select those who are who pre-registered to render some comments tonight or some testimony? Please do so now.
Yes. Thank you, Chair Torres. So once again, my name is Eric Friedman. I'm Assistant Executive Director of the New York City Campaign Finance Board. I'm going to right now just post, so rather paste the names of the folks who have pre-registered to testify here in the chat. But as I do that, I'll introduce myself as I'm kind of a middle-aged white guy with graying hair. I'm wearing a pair of earphones. I've got a blue button-down shirt on. I'm in front of a blurred background here on Zoom. But so as I've noted, we have folks, members of the public who have registered with us to testify. We will go in order of those folks as they reached out to contact us. If you have not previously kind of sent us your name to get on this list, shoot us a message in the chat if you would like to testify, or raise your hand, and you'll be called on in order. But we will be starting, as the chair said, to hear testimony from voters about their experiences voting in yesterday's election. We're here to hear how it went while it's fresh. And so with that, we're very happy to just get started with first name on the list is Essence Scott. Essence, are you here? Do we see Essence in the in the meetings? All right, Essence, if you are here, please raise your hand and we'll make sure to come back to you. Thank you for signing up to testify. Next name on our list, I see Art Chang. I see Art here in the, let's call Art up to testify. Art, I should note while we're promoting him up to be a panelist, is a former chair of this committee. And so we're really pleased to have him here tonight to talk about his experience voting in yesterday's election. Are you with us, Art?
I don't see his name on the list yet.
Okay. Hi, can you hear me?
Oh, there it is. Okay.
Well, thank you so much for holding this hearing. Hello, Chair Torres. We haven't met yet, but it's a pleasure to meet you. Amy, wonderful to see you. Eric, Amanda, all my old friends from the Campaign Finance Board. Just as a way of introduction, my name's Art Chang. I joined the Campaign Finance Board in 2009. And I served on the board until 2018. And so I was there for much of Amy's tenure. I was the first chair of this committee and served until 2016, and very, very proud of that work. I want to, first of all, give my deepest gratitude and appreciation to Amy for all of your service to keep democracy vital and moving forward in New York City. We see from the national context how truly fragile it is, and you have kept a steady hand at the wheel, ensuring that the Campaign Finance Board system of democracy continues to adapt and move forward and becoming ever more equitable and inclusive. So thank you for that. I neglected to say that I go by the pronouns of he and him. I am also sitting, I'm an Asian man with clear glasses, very short hair, also middle-aged, and I'm sitting in my study with a painting of a black hand and a white hand clasping, which I've had for 40 years. Behind me, a stack of books and a couple screens. The transitions are very important, and weathering these transitions and the future transitions to come is something that the next leader of CFB is going to have to figure out. And I think, Amy, you're going to have a lot to be able to share, because I just want to list a few things. We had Hurricane Sandy, when many poll sites were inaccessible. We had difficulty. I think we even moved the primary day. It was extraordinarily difficult for the BOE and for the Campaign Finance Board staff, but we got through that thanks to Amy. We had a global pandemic and a change in how we vote. The ranked choice voting, extraordinarily difficult, a confluence of events that really were superhuman, and a record number of candidates. And again, under your leadership, Amy, you did it incredibly smoothly. And I can tell you that as a candidate, I didn't feel a single hiccup. So fantastic. And so thank you for that. When I joined VAAC, it was a mission that was a huge accomplishment to bring VAAC into the Campaign Finance Board. And so an amazing way to connect campaign finance and voter engagement. And Amy, I want you to know that not only has the CFB created a national reputation that is of the highest caliber, but the work that you and I did together, along with Eric and Matt and all the staff at the Campaign Finance Board to create NYC Votes, would have never happened without your leadership. And NYC Votes is a household name in New York City. Wherever you go and you mention NYC Votes, everyone has heard of it. And a surprising number of people outside the city have heard of it. And so I'm incredibly proud of the work that we did together to do that. And then since I've left, you've continued to make improvements, language and accessibility, the voter guides, and then preparing to work on non-citizen voting. And as the chair mentioned, it's really, I think it's too bad that this is not going to go forward, but it is an important thing to do to be able to enfranchise all of New York to be able to vote, because we have a challenge with voter engagement. right? The disenfranchisement that is caused indirectly by having two primary dates. You know, it's very confusing. We saw that yesterday. We saw that in spades. Turnout was very, very low, and we struggle with that. We've never figured it out. It's one of the great failures, I think, of my tenure as the chair of the Campaign Finance Board, of the Voter Assistance Advisory Committee. We have, and there are a number of points of confusion that I do want to point out. Number one, we have gone back and forth with different ways of applying absentee balloting. This year, if you voted absentee, you could not vote in person. But yesterday, when I went to vote in person, there was no signage to declare that if you had voted absentee, you should not have been able to, you should not vote in person. I also like to point out that a continuing problem are the number of candidates for offices on the ballot that very few New Yorkers actually know anything about. In my district in Brooklyn, we had a civil court judge election with 2 candidates, and there's no biographical or other information to allow voters to pick. And in addition, the New York City Bar Association deemed one of the 2 unqualified. And so what does that mean to voters, and how is that communicated, and what's the obligation to it that we have to be able to give voters information they need to make the proper decisions? And then even more obscure was the delegates to the Judicial Convention, which presumes that you know that there's a judicial convention, that you know which judges are going to be nominated through that convention. And why were there 2 different rosters of delegates on this ballot and people you don't know and have no way of knowing about? It is very, very, very challenging. And so the information that we get as voters is really disenfranchising. So I was fielding text messages from Monday night all through Tuesday morning from friends who were asking for advice and just information, even about what this stuff meant. So I think that it is incumbent on the BOE especially, but it's also an opportunity for the Campaign Finance Board to provide more voter information and education around that. We've just come out of a pandemic, or actually I would like to say that we are still in a pandemic. We don't know when it's going to end, but we act as if it has ended. On election day, there were a number of people who I knew personally who had COVID, did not ask for an absentee ballot, but they had no way of voting because they did not want to infect the poll workers or leave their homes or go on trans or buses. So we have a situation now where we know that people are getting ill in this pandemic. This is going to continue. So how are we preparing for people to vote? You know, we do not have same-day registration. We do not have all kinds of same-day things, but can't we actually enable a way for people to have an opportunity to vote if they come down with this illness? I think it's very important for us to figure that out, and maybe it's just to send everybody an absentee ballot in advance. I don't know what the answer is, but it is definitely something which is important to enfranchise all New Yorkers and make it easy. And I want to conclude there by just saying thank you all for everything that you've done with me. Chair Torres, thank you for your service and leading this committee, and all the committee members. Thank you so much for your service. It was an honor to vote, and it was an honor to be on this committee. So thank you so much for allowing me to testify.
Thanks, Art. Thank you for all the Amy, if you let you jump in, sorry.
Thank you for all the nice words, and I know Eric's emceeing, so I just want to but thank you very much, and thank you for your comments.
Very welcome.
Thank you for the leadership in starting up this organization.
Welcome.
Much appreciated. Thank you. Go ahead.
I do want to thank you, Art Chang, because you pose a very important question. How do we prepare our people to vote, given the conditions now that we're operating in? I think that's a very important question. It's something that we should really look at, and the VAAC hopefully would activate its members around questions like that need to be answered. And if we're going to solidify the democratic process in New York City. Comments on the chat. Eric, is there any way that we can, there was a poll watcher on the chat that made a comment. I didn't get to read it all. Is there any way that we can backtrack and see who that was, and maybe that person want to make a comment on the poll watchers in the past primary?
For sure. If again, and that perspective from the folks who work the polls is really important. I mean, one of the things that I think we've always been lucky to have is poll workers coming here and kind of share their stories of what's happening at the polls, because it's such great work and you know that they do. We've got a great kind of core of folks willing to give their time to help make the gears of democracy go. I'll just note my colleague Amanda Malillo is kind of there answering questions in the chat as they come up. But certainly if folks want to come on camera and testify as we go, please let us know in the chat, raise your hand. We'll make sure we get on the list. But right now I want to make sure we start to work our way through the list of folks who have signed up to testify tonight. So the next name we have on the list is David Phillips. Is David Phillips in the meeting? David, if you're here, could you raise your hand to let us know in the chat? I'll give you a few seconds. All right. Now, if we don't have David, we'll move on to the next name on our list. If you are here, we will come back to you. Just let us know when you get here. Farron Griffith. Is our next member of the public signed up to testify. Let's get you. I do see you here. Let's get you up and on the screen.
Hello, apologize for the delay. Can you hear me clearly? I'm good?
We can.
We can hear you.
Okay, perfect.
Please go ahead when you're ready.
All right, great, thanks. Good evening, Chairperson and the members of the VAAC board. My name is Farron Griffith, and I'm a member of the executive committee, and I chair the Civic Engagement Committee at the New York branch NAACP. I want to thank you for this opportunity to testify before you today. My description is a light-skinned Black woman wearing a yellow t-shirt with writing on the front and a blue baseball cap that also has writing on the front, actually says both. And I'm wearing glasses and hoop earrings. My testimony will reflect the operations of the BOE and its impact to the voters. I want to start with the NYU Palladium polling site not being stocked with the Democratic primary ballots for the voters that are enrolled in that party. They did not have any ballots for those enrolled in the Democratic Party, and it was for several hours before it was rectified. So that discouraged some voters. They was on the way to work. This happened in the morning, and they had to leave. They end up either leaving or, voting via affidavit, which we know that if they're using an affidavit ballot and they're not enrolled in that party, then it may not can be counted within that party's primary. So that is one of the ways that the BOE had impacted some voters. Excuse me. And then there was the poll site location changes in the 70th Assembly District, which encompasses Central Harlem, Central and Western Harlem, part of Western Harlem. I understand about the redistricting, and every 10 years we have to go through the redistricting process, which therefore changes the election districts in the assembly districts themselves. The polling sites were changed from the early voting sites for EDs 29 and 30 were changed from the Watley High School on 285 West 115th Street between Adam Clayton Powell Boulevard and Frederick Douglass Boulevard, all the way over to the forum at Columbia University on 605 West 125th Street, which is between Broadway and 12th Avenue, which is a mile from my house and 2 buses. So on the election day itself, the primary election day, ED 29 and 31 being that they were changed, those that were registered and that live in ED 29 and 30, they were never notified in advance of said changes. I myself received my notice from the Board of Election on the first day of early voting. Some of my neighbors said that they received it 3 days before the primary day. And then you had some voters that said they never received any notification of the polling site changes. So the ED, we used to vote across the street at the JCC Harlem, 318 West 118th Street between Manhattan Avenue and Frederick Douglass. They moved us from there and the YT Walker Senior Center at 2177 Frederick Douglass Boulevard, all the way over on the other side of Morningside Park to PS 36, which is up a hill and is on top of rocks. And the front structure of the school is rocks and there's stairs going up the rocks. And then when you get inside the school, there's more steps going up. So what I noticed about the poll workers were that they were referring everybody to take the steps because they didn't see a visibly known disability. So they were directing everybody to stairs. So there was a lot of complaints from my neighbors in my community. In addition to the YT Walker Senior Center itself, as I mentioned, is a polling site. However, the very seniors that live in that building where a polling site for ED 31 is located now, they were not able to vote there because where the actual housing building is now inside of ED 31. So everybody from ED 31 had to vote inside the JCC around the corner. So this had impacted a lot of the seniors because they're used to just taking the elevator ride and coming downstairs and voting. And a lot of them did not even want to leave out of the building to go around the corner and vote. And at the JCC itself, that used to be my primary day, election day location, it was very dark. And I go in there often just in general to different events that are there, but it was very dark and gloomy in there. The lighting wasn't bright, it wasn't welcome. Some of the seniors said that they was a little apprehensive of going inside because it was a little dark. So that is very problematic in itself. The very location where a polling site is, and it's there because of the seniors, and then the seniors themselves could not even vote there. That is, I mean, if that's not voter suppression, I don't know what is. So there were a lot of voters who were complaining about getting to the primary day location over at PS 36. By the time they found out, when they went to their usual polling site, it was too late to go walk all the way over, because it's on the other side of Morningside Park to go and cast their vote, which is disheartening to hear. As I'm always out in the community encouraging people to vote, to get out there and vote. And I'm talking to my community and they're like, I'm frustrated. I stood online at my usual polling site, stood on there for 20, 30 minutes only to be told that it was changed. And they're like, I don't want to walk way over there. So I just wanted to put that on the record. And I know I'm pressed on time. I didn't know I was going to be the second testimony. I apologize. Oh, and then I need to speak on this last thing, please. The poll workers at the PS 36 polling site, at ED table 29, the woman, the worker had a laptop, her personal laptop on the table doing personal stuff. The scanner monitors were reading books. The interpreter, the information and interpreter had his personal cell phone out, was on his cell phone. I mean, this is unacceptable behavior from the Board of Election staff on the operations sides all the way around. And it impacted my community largely, and there's other locations as well. I can submit testimony, and I apologize for going over time. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Farron, for your testimony, for sharing your story, for the amount of detail and thought you put into that. So thank you very much for joining us tonight. Next up on the list of folks who signed up to testify, we have Kathleen Daniel. Is Kathleen here? Is Kathleen in the meeting? All right, going once, going twice. Kathleen, if you're with us, please shoot us a message in the chat. We will come back around to you if as we keep going through the list. Up next, Iman Rumari Doster.
Hi, yes,
Iman,
thank you so
Iman.
much.
I hope I got the name close to the
It's close.
pronunciation
I'm used
right.
to people turning me into a Pokemon, so I'm used to hearing all kinds of versions of my name. It's all good. Iman
Well,
Romali Doster. I'm here
thank
from
you.
New York Lawyers for the Public Interest, but I'm also on the advisory council for accessible voting. I just joined. I was just appointed to it a few weeks ago, and we had a great meeting about it, and it was super great. And so I had a pretty decent time voting, but the one concern I wanted to bring up was, and the same thing that I brought up in that meeting, was that I checked in with my friends who are still living in nursing homes. And in both of their nursing homes in both Queens and Brooklyn, where I stayed in 2010 and 2014, they didn't mention any voting at all. And so I was so glad to hear from Ms. Griffith that they're including the seniors. But in the nursing homes that I was in, they didn't. And this year they did the same thing. They didn't even mention that there was an election going on. They didn't talk about any candidates, and they didn't even give anyone an option to vote absentee. And so I just want to know what on earth is going on, because I was told, which I didn't know about, which is strange since I'm a disability rights advocate and I pay attention to a ton of things around accessibility, that there's someone assigned to go to nursing homes and educate people about what's going on and how to elect and how to vote absentee. And I didn't even know about that because nobody came to the nursing homes when I was there, and still nobody's going to them now. So I really think that needs to be addressed, since there are still plenty of people in nursing homes that are of sound mind and can vote, even if it's absentee, and they should be given the option. So I just wanted to bring that up as something that's extremely concerning, since I work around accessible everything in New York City and in New York State. And so I just want to make sure that people are being given a chance to, practice their right to vote. So thank you so much for having me. And I hope this is something that is, fixed eventually.
Thank you. Thank you for taking the time to join us and for your testimony tonight. Next on our list, Brian Williams. I think I see Brian's name here among the attendees. All right, Brian, when you're ready, please go ahead.
Hi, good evening. This is Brian Williams, just a community member from District 26 here in Brooklyn. Wanted to just provide my testimony regarding what went on at a poll site with that at Flatbush Tompkins Church. It was just a personal matter. So I arrived to the poll site wearing some supportive stickers, basically, supporting the protesting and around the recent overturning of Roe versus Wade. And one of the poll workers kind of heckled me and was questioning and asking me different questions and really trying to, I guess, maybe distract me or make sure I was secure in my beliefs, but it really interrupted my voting experience, and it held up a line for about a few minutes. And I just wanted to put that on the line because I'm aware that, poll workers are not supposed to be doing that in any way, shape, or fashion. The point is to really facilitate the methods and the appropriate fashion for voting. So I just wanted to put that out there and make you guys aware of that.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian, for taking the time to come and share that with us. No matter what your beliefs or who you're supporting, everyone should feel as though they're comfortable visiting the poll site and making their preferences heard. So thank you for sharing your story. Next member of the public signed up to testify, Kathleen Collins. I know Kathleen is here. Let's get her up onto the panel. I see you, Kathleen.
Hi, thank you for inviting me and having me here today, and thank you for doing this. I'm a co-coordinator with Downstate New York ADAPT, a grassroots disability organization. And also recently, I too was put on the Accessible Voting Advisory Committee. And I was surprised too with what Ms. Iman said concerning about the nursing home. So definitely I'm glad that Iman brought that up, and I'm sure our group will be looking into that as one of our to-do projects. I'd just like to say that I was happy to see at my poll site, there was a worker with a hearing loss that was working there, and she had someone that was a sign language interpreter, which was wonderful. I thought that was excellent. One of my friends just became a poll worker who's disabled, and that was wonderful news to hear. And she just did her first election yesterday, so that was exciting. My ballot marking device worked great, and that was wonderful. However, I did hear from one of my friends about that issue that I believe Ms. Griffith brought up about poll sites being far away, and they had that issue with their early voting site, and they have a disability, and they found that disconcerting and made it more difficult for them to vote. And they needed to vote early because they were going away as of, let's see, today's Tuesday. As of Sunday, they were going. They were actually leaving on Monday for a trip, so they couldn't vote on Tuesday in person, and they would rather vote in person than by absentee. So they had to vote early, but they had a long trek to get to their site. I don't know the site. I don't recall it off the top of my head. I will get more information on that and let you know. Another thing, one other friend had a problem concerning at their poll site that they went to. The poll worker shouted to the person, "Are you a Democrat?" And he was a little disconcerted because he's a Republican. And so he felt a little bit, that it was a little bit kind of, off-putting for him. And so I would like it that the poll workers realize that maybe what they should do in the future, just look at what's on the record and give the person the right ballot than actually asking them, "Oh, are you this or that?" Because it does put people off. That's pretty much all I have to report at this moment. It's great that you're doing this the day after the election. However, I haven't gotten feedback from our members as of yet. So that is a downside of doing it so early. So I know our next voter engagement working group meeting is not until next Tuesday, because we usually have it every Tuesday. So I won't be getting feedback till then. So will we be able to put in any written comments after that date? It's not the normal 72 hours that, I know for city council meetings. So that's.
I mean, I'll just answer that for sure. Any additional information that you'd like to, you or anyone else would like to share with the committee, will be received whenever you're ready to share it. We will be kind of collating the testimony received and make sure that we prepare summaries to share with our colleagues at the Board of Elections, with legislators at the city and state to kind of make sure that that information is out and available to everyone who cares about making elections better in New York City.
Great. Thank you so much. And we appreciate that. Thank you for doing this great job.
Thank you, Kathleen, for your continued advocacy and for taking the time to be with us here tonight.
Thank you.
Next name on our list is Sherry Ann Brill. I see Sherry Ann here. Let's join the panel in a moment. All right, Sharon, I see you, but I think you're still on mute.
I think she's muted.
Yeah. Give
Does
her a
she hear
second.
us?
Sharon, do you hear us?
I don't think she hears us and we don't hear her.
So let's give
Let's go to the next person and we can come back
Yes.
to Sherry when she fixes her issue.
Let's give Sherry Ann a moment to fix the issue there, and we can move
Okay,
ahead.
can you hear me
Oh,
now?
wait, there we are, Sherry.
Yeah, here we
Yeah,
go.
finally something came up that said unmute, so I was able to do it. Hi, everyone. I'm
Hi.
Sherry Ann Brill. I'm a voter and I'm also a poll worker. And we're the front lines for serving voters. And just a shout out to Brian Williams. If I saw what you were wearing, I would have applauded. I don't know if he's still here, but I did want to say that. Can you hear me?
We hear you just fine.
Yeah, we can hear
Okay,
you.
okay. It keeps on saying unmute. So anyway, we're at the front lines for serving voters. We're not supposed to show our political affiliation, but we are expected to know everything. So when a voter comes to us and we direct them to a different polling site, they get angry with us because, you know, they act as if we're the ones who did that to them. Meanwhile, I know there were mailings that were sent out telling people about new polling sites. I don't know how they don't know about it. A lot of them said they didn't get it. Meanwhile, I received a mailer about my poll site being changed, and it was the same thing. So I don't get that. There needs to be better outreach, maybe PSAs to let people know about things. I don't know if they ignore their mail. Not everybody is web savvy. I did my research to look up candidates, but I found personally, you know, a lot of information was lacking. I even used Ballotpedia. For a lot of the local races, there's no information available. And I have voters coming to me asking, well, you know, who should I pick? You know, and for me, it's almost like eeny, meeny, miny, mo also. And I'm not supposed to tell people how to vote. And, you know, they take their frustration out on me. As far as absentee ballots, well, you know, a lot of people don't even know about that. So I don't know how. There needs to be a better job of getting the information out to people in advance of the election. Overall, you know, the experience is rewarding. People were really appreciative, but we had a lot of frustrated people who just, you know, blamed us for everything that was wrong. And there needs to be a workaround with that.
So first of all, Sherry, thank you for your service as a poll worker.
Oh, you're welcome.
For stepping forward and you know, devoting your time to the process. And thank you for being here with us tonight to share your story. It's really, again, a really important perspective, and we thank you for making the time to be here.
So do you have plans of doing better outreach, or candidates shouldn't be on a ballot if they can't provide information about themselves. So you need to work on that.
Great.
Just my opinion as a voter, and also as someone who serves the voters.
Yes, and
Are you going to know who they are?
So I see, and Nicole, thank you for posting this link in the chat to the Judicial Voter Guide, which is one resource that should provide information for voters on those candidates for judge. Our CFB NYC Votes Voter Guide, which again you can always see at nycvotes.org, will contain information about did for this election have information about candidates for governor, for the assembly. We have not collected information for candidates for judge, for those kind of local party positions, but had some really great information and some great features on our online voter guide at nycvotes.org. So those are a couple of great resources to help you learn more about who's on the ballot.
Right, but I get that they're there for the bigger candidates, but I found the judges, or especially the delegate thing, that really confounded people, and I couldn't explain it, and I was expected to.
Mm-hmm.
So, and my job was running the scanner of all things. So, that was pretty crazy. So I don't know what needs to be done. Certainly, maybe there needs to be a PSA about how you can go to a website and look things up. But a lot of older voters aren't web savvy. So there needs to be a better way to communicate to them, because they're very civic minded. They care. And they turn out.
Yeah.
So there needs to be like a multi-pronged effort to connect with different demographics about what's important and explaining the issues. Roe v. Wade, gun control. There's so many things that matter. And just to know a little more about what the candidate's track record is, if they're an incumbent, what they've done for the community, and what their challengers are planning to do. So that's really badly needed.
Well, again, Sherry, I thank you for your perspective, for those comments, which are thoughtful comments, and
My pleasure.
for being here tonight with us. We're gonna move on through our testimony. Next person up to testify is Lauren Brake. Lauren, I see you there. When you're ready, please begin.
Hi, can you guys hear me clearly?
Yes, we can.
I
Okay,
can hear.
great. So thank you so much for your time and for hosting this panel. I am from the Bronx, and I'm speaking as a voter from the 78th district. Kind of wanted to mirror some of the points that were brought up already by other panelists that are attending this evening. My catalyst for joining today, actually, I went to vote yesterday, and I looked up my information early in the morning because I know that sometimes there are changes in poll sites, and I just wanted to reconfirm and make sure that the poll site that I was supposed to be going to was correct. After work, around 6:37 p.m., I went to the location at Memorial College, because at 8 a.m. that morning, that was the location that the voter website said that I was supposed to be going to based on my address. However, when I arrived to that location, I was advised that I was not at the right location. And I asked where I was supposed to go. And I advised the poll worker, I said, well, that actually isn't the information that was available to me this morning on the official website as far as location that I was supposed to be going to. And to the person that was actually before me, I forget her name, I think it was Kathleen, but I agree, the poll workers are not necessarily, they should be taking the heat for some of these issues that occur. They're just there to facilitate and provide information to the voters. And so, I try to be as respectful as possible, but also just expressing, trying to communicate the frustration around having to come to one location that was available, information was available that morning online, and then being told now that the information is different. And the poll worker advised me that and this is what they said, yeah, there was rezoning that happened and they changed some locations this morning. And so that is immediately what kind of set an alarm off in my head, because it's an extremely frustrating experience for someone, especially someone that did do their due diligence to make sure they researched the information prior to arriving that same day. And so to mirror some of the other comments that were made, this creates a very difficult situation because some people may not be able to relocate to the next location. If you are somebody that maybe works late or has other things going on, you can't go to the location until later in the evening. If you are then told that you are at the wrong location, you may not have the opportunity to vote at all. The location, luckily, I'm an able-bodied person, and so it was very easy for me to walk 0.7 miles to the location in which I was told that I was supposed to be voting at. But I think about the people that maybe are not, that maybe have disabilities or are unable to access. So that is an immediate challenge. And what was also interesting is that the person, as I was speaking to the poll worker, another voter came up beside me and gave their address, and they were issued the same information that they were also in the wrong location. And they were in the same thing, saying that I looked up this information and I also received a mailer that said I was supposed to come here. And the poll worker also said, well, it was changed this morning. It was changed this morning. So it just created, and also when I got to the other location, there was somebody online that was very upset because they were also being told that they were in the wrong location. And so obviously this is a big problem because it basically suppresses voters. It discourages them from actually following through with what they were going in there to do, which was to vote for their candidates. There's another point I'll get to in one second, but it suppresses their votes because it discourages them from even wanting to continue with the process, especially if the location is not within their reach or their means. And also it seems like a setup. And maybe that's not the intention. It very clear could just be a misunderstanding and a lack of follow through and updating information online. But from a community of people that is used to things like this happening where people don't want our voices to be heard, it immediately sends a red flag that this is another thing that's being put against us to make sure that we cannot vote and make sure that our voices are heard. I also want to point out that at my poll location, when I was told this information, I said, well, is there any information available to me right now in which I can possibly fill something out and file a complaint, or maybe somebody that I could speak to about this? Because I obviously am aware that you guys as poll workers are not responsible for this issue. But I do want to just make sure that I'm expressing that this is like wrong and unjust. And there wasn't really a clear answer on who I could go to. They sent me to somebody, and that person basically just looked up my address and was like, yeah, you're not supposed to be here, which created frustration again, because I'm like, I need somebody to talk to about where I can share this information about, sharing my grievances to make sure that it is then maybe sent to another higher power to take care of. Eventually she gave me an address and I left. But that was just it was a very frustrating experience. And I also want to give, a shout out to whoever runs the social media for NYC Votes. I actually was posting about it on my Instagram stories, and they immediately reached out and shared information for this panel, apologized and said, thank you so much for sharing your experience. You should come to this panel. So thank you to whoever runs the social media account. I'm very appreciative of that. The other point that I wanted to bring up mirrors Farron and a couple of other people that spoke about lack of information around candidates. I'm somebody that tries to stay informed, but there are certain seats that I am not fully informed about. And so when I tried to look up information about them to see who these candidates were and to have a better understanding, there's no information. There's no information on Ballotpedia. There's no information and basically anywhere. And so as a voter, you're kind of going into this blindly and not really able to make an informed decision. And as we know, with everything that's happening in our communities, it's super important for us to know who is going into these seats because they do impact our communities. And so when we don't have that information, it prevents us from doing things that can benefit ourselves and those around us. So if there is some kind of way that more information could be required, or that can be shared about all of the seats, not just the big ones, not just who's running for governor and lieutenant governor, but some of those smaller offices as well. I think it could really benefit our community and make sure that we are fully informed as to what's going on. So those are my 3 grievances, just the miscommunication around the location and poll changes. I think it was really messy how it happened, especially because the information that was available to me that morning had changed midday. And also just making sure that there is more information or clear information on where voters can go on their poll site to share grievances and any kind of complaints, and how that information can be bubbled up. It was not clear at my poll site. And then also just making sure that there is clear communication or clear information about who our candidates are and what their stances are, why we should be voting for them, so that we can make better informed decisions for ourselves and our communities. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Lauren, for your testimony, for sharing those thoughts. I have one quick question to ask before we let you go. Where is your poll site, just so we have that information?
Yes, I am voting in District 78, which is in the Bronx. The poll site that was available and listed on the website in the morning at 8 a.m. yesterday was Monroe College. And when I showed up to Monroe College, I was told that I need to go to 2455 Sedgwick Avenue instead.
All right, thank you. Thank you for sharing those details. Thank you for taking the time to share your testimony this evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're going to keep moving through our list. Next person up to testify, April Meadows. Is April with us? All right, I see April on the panel. When you're ready to unmute, come on camera, please begin. Hi, April, you are still on mute.
Hello?
All right, we can hear you now. Please, please go ahead.
Okay, good evening. My name is April Meadows. I'm a poll worker / voter. Yesterday, not only that, sorry, let's do it right. I'm a poll worker and I'm a voter and I'm disabled. Yesterday, I went to my site. I had to report there at 5 o'clock in the morning, get there. I'm sitting, I'm waiting to go to vote at my normal, well, that would have been my normal site. They moved my site at the last minute to another location. I'm disabled. I walk with a walker, trying to get up a hill where they relocated me up a hill, up two hills and like 3 blocks over. And I asked them, why could I not do absentee vote? I was told, oh, give us a few minutes, we'll figure it out. Figure it out came 9 o'clock. I was unable to vote yesterday. And that bothered me so badly because I believe if I vote, my vote count. And these are the things that I was dealing with. And it wasn't just me, it was a lot of senior citizens that could not vote at the same site that we normally vote at. And they changed it at the last minute. Because the card that I received, it told me to go to that site, but when I get to that site, it's no longer there. And that's my biggest thing. I'm in the Bronx. I'm originally from Brooklyn, and I've been doing the poll work for 35 years. As long as my daughter's been on this earth, I've been doing it. And my thing is that the people in the community get very disencouraged and be like, nah, I'm not going there. And they get angry with us who works there as, temporary workers for the poll to be told they can no longer vote there. And they like, well, we're not gonna vote. So when do y'all change this event? This is not the first time this happened. It's just been happening a lot in the Bronx because I'm originally from Brooklyn and as long as I've been doing the polls in Brooklyn, We never had this discrepancy. If there was a person that got moved or they changed their address, that's one thing. But for people to come in that's been voting at the side for like years to be told they got to go somewhere else during the primary, that's unfair to those people. And why do they wait to the last minute to make these adjustments and not notify the people ahead of time that this is what they are doing? This is why I came to your panel, because I've been with y'all for 35 years, working from the age of 18 to the age I am now. And I've never experienced this. And now I need someone to like really look into it, because you have people that was in walkers, wheelchairs, canes, crutches, barely limping, barely walking, to come and vote, to be told to go somewhere else. I don't think that's fair. And y'all need to adjust that and make it better for people with disability, because I understand, because I'm disabled. So I want to know, how can y'all figure it out and make it better for the community that I'm in? And I'm in District 79. And this has been going on, and I've been doing the polls for the last 2 years out here. But my origin of being on the poll workers thing has been in Brooklyn. And now that I'm out here, I'm disgusted with the way they do things. And I want to know, how can y'all help improve what is going on in the Bronx as far as elderly, senior citizens, disability, homebound people, people that can't get out and vote? What can y'all do to help them?
Well,
Hello,
April,
go
yep.
ahead.
Do you hear me? Yeah. No, thank you for your long service as a poll worker. It's important work. And thank you for spending the time with us tonight, really to kind of help bring attention and shine a light on your experience, and make sure, gives us the opportunity to lift it up and make sure that folks, again, our colleagues at Board of Elections and our friends and the state legislature can help to address some of the issues you've raised. We're going to make sure that your testimony, along with all the other testimony you've received tonight, is shared and available for people to see and read and respond to. So I thank you for your advocacy and for taking the time to be here tonight.
Okay, before we disconnect, I'm also in a Democratic Party, and this is why I'm fighting for better. Now, I'm not trying to cause has or mayhem. I just want better, because I'm moving into a new developed neighborhood that has always been downgraded for whatever purpose. And now that they uplifting it and they bringing in new people into the communities, gentrifying it and making it better to a degree, you gotta remember, there was people here before that's used to certain kind of thing, and for them to make an all-around change at a few days before the election, that's like being sabotaged. That's all I'm saying. Yeah, people can't do that to people that want to get out and vote. And these people are used to going right there to vote, to be told, oh, you got to go across town, or you got to go here, or you got to go there. And these are people that are disabled. And I felt so bad for them yesterday. I didn't even know what to tell them. And that's the only thing I'm worrying about. I can tell you whatever I want, but we have to do better to get better. And this is the biggest thing. So I thank y'all for allowing me on your panel, and I thank you, and I'm gonna still be in the cut listening, but thank you so much for even hearing me.
Again, thank you for taking the time to share your story.
All right, bye-bye.
Next to testify, Evelyn Rojas. Is Evelyn Rojas here? All right. All right, we can see you, we can hear you. Please begin when you're ready.
Hear me?
Evelyn, yep, we can hear you.
Okay, wonderful. Okay, hi, my name is Evelyn Rojas. I am from Long Island originally, and I just moved back to New York City in February of 2020, having been out in Los Angeles and Florida for about 15 years. My district is 48, and I had to vote in PS 192. I have voted, when I voted in 2020, it was a different location. That's fine. I knew I should look just to make sure. And I also looked in advance. I did not have any problems with that. My concern with the voting location was first that the signage was a bit confusing. I was following the arrows and it looked like it was kind of going upstairs, and I'm looking at myself and saying, can I do those stairs? Because I am disabled and I'm not visibly disabled, but I do suffer from chronic pain. So I just kind of kept following around because I saw additional signs. And it wasn't until I got closer to the building that there were signs that showed anything about, you know, wheelchair accessible or whatever. And even though it was wheelchair accessible and I'm walking, the incline was a bit difficult just to walk. I did manage to get in. There wasn't that many people there. There were about 4 or 5 people manning the door for some reason. And I was able to figure out which of the booths I needed to go to based on the information I got from the New York City website. But I am with the Working Families Party. So I was given the Democratic ballot, as well as an affidavit folder. I had the same problem. I did not know who most of these people were, and I'm just a voter. I don't work anything relating to it. So I'm going to be honest. When all of these separate people start sending you mailers, they're called junk mail in my house. So for me, what would have been helpful would have been a singular informational brochure that had something, whether it was 1 to 2 paragraph background on each of the candidates, their statement of purpose, something along those lines, so that I could effectively vote. Because I know I had heard some of the big names, but some of them I had no idea what they were. So I don't even know if I was supposed to do this, but I just pulled out my phone and I started looking for the name, and then I looked for whatever website I could find to find information before I made my selection. So once I did that, there was a question on the affidavit form that you're required to complete. I think it's in the 2nd or 3rd section, where you have to explain why you're submitting this affidavit. And none of them were accurate in my situation. I had to ask 4 different people. And even the 4th one was not entirely sure of the answer. But what I ended up doing was I picked the first one, which just basically said that my party was the party that was listed above, because I had listed Working Families Party. And then the second half is that, but was that you guys didn't know, but you guys did know. I had to select that option because that was the closest available option of everything else that was there. That was the most accurate out of everything. Now, I just want to mention what Lauren and some of the others had been saying with regard to the changing in the voting sites. That's really, it was disturbing to hear that, and it is disenfranchising. I don't know how there's any possibility to do it, but there should be some sort of a limitation put into place, at least on the day of voting, that locations don't change based on what was already on the website. It just doesn't make any sense. And as someone who does struggle with mobility, for a primary, I don't know if I would have gone to another location, because it's not the big one. It's not the big one. That's not the one everyone's supposed to vote. I just showed up because I was like, hey, I've got time. Let me go to the primary. What do I have left? In terms of the communication that's sent by, in advance, an informational brochure would be great with a little bit blurb on each of the candidates. But if anything, there should be some regular information provided for the website where people can go and look for themselves. Maybe an easy to remember link that people can go ahead and type into their phone or into their computer to go ahead and look, and issuing this once or twice before the election. So maybe, you know, if we're doing it in March, in January and February, we did it in June, April and May, that kind of a thing, so that it is close enough where people will remember, but it also gives them another chance to look at the information again. You know, if I get 10 different pamphlets from different candidates, I'm not going to read that. I know I'm not going to read that. But if there's one brochure that just has 1 to 2 on each person, I did not understand why there were 2 different panels of delegates. And of course, I knew pretty much from the get that I wasn't going to be able to find anything on any of these people. So, you know, I just did what a 50-year-old woman in my position would do. And I voted for those people. So the affidavit process was it was just confusing for that specific reason. But outside of that, that seemed to go pretty well. That was just it's a required answer, except none of those answers were accurate. So that's it.
So, Evelyn, I want to thank you for taking the time to come and testify tonight. Can I ask a quick question? Did you say you're registered in the Working Families Party? Was that correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
But
so
we didn't have any candidates.
Right. So one thing to just remember, you know, by New York State law, we have closed primaries, right? So if you don't have a primary in your party, then you cannot vote in another party's primary. So that's the one thing to remember about voting in the primaries is we still have this closed system in New York State that.
Well, see, that was part of the confusion for me too, because there was no way for me to know if there were candidates for the Working Families Party because I didn't get anything from them either. So I just showed up to vote. And I figured, okay, well, since I'm not a Democrat, because I said I'm not a Democrat. She's like, I know, this is why you fill out this. But I figured, you know, since a lot of the candidates that the working families do vote for are Democrats, you know, I just said, let me just submit it. If they don't accept it, they don't accept it. If they do, great, you know, whatever, no big deal. But for me to come there and not know, that's a little, you know, hard to manage because I want to vote. I just don't know what I'm supposed to do.
Right. So I will, and before we move on, I will just take the opportunity to point out another great resource for voters ahead of voting. The board of, well, there's always the voter guide at nycvotes.org. As I said, the Board of Elections produces sample ballots that are kind of available on their website. When you go to check your poll site location, you can also see that sample ballot. And so they are kind of the original source for knowing, you know, who is on the ballot, who is not, and which parties have primaries. And their site is another great resource at vote.nyc. So I'll just take the opportunity to remind folks of that resource as well. So
well, if there is if there is anything that you guys send out in advance, it would be great to include that information on there, just, you know, as the resources kind of panel of contact these to find this, you know, that kind of thing. This way we can look for ourselves.
Absolutely. I thank you for your commitment to voting and for taking the time to be here and share your story tonight.
Thank you.
Our next panelist is Dorothea Brady. Dorothea, when you're ready, please go ahead.
Hi, can you hear me? Oh, no, you can't.
I can hear you just fine.
Oh, you can. Okay, great. All right, so I'm a poll worker. I've been a poll worker since since right before the first Obama election. And yesterday was one of the worst days we had. It was all because of the redistricting, and there were too many people who were switched. And they came in and they didn't know that they didn't know that they had been changed. And on top of that, we could not issue them an affidavit ballot because that affidavit ballot cast in the wrong district would not count. And I think that's the problem. I think you really need to allow that when you have a case of redistricting, that you allow them to vote by affidavit wherever they are, because it was just horrible dealing with these poor people who we had to explain to them that they couldn't vote today. And that's absolutely goes against who we are and what we do. The other thing I thought would help is that if you know you have a redistricting in a certain EDAD, any of those EDADs should be supplied with shuttle buses that will take those people periodically to their new voting location, because there's too many. We have so many elderly people in our neighborhood who actually make the effort to come to our site, and they come there and they say, "But I've been here 40 years. I'm not going to go anywhere else. This is the last place I'm going to go vote." They're in their 80s, and they're coming. And it was just heartbreaking, really, to be a poll worker yesterday. The other thing is I didn't wind up voting yesterday and in the election, and I'm a poll worker. And what had happened was I got the information about my early voting site being changed, which was okay, but it was a little bit less easy for me to get to. But on top of that, the mailing that I received did not have the hours the polling site was open on each day. And having worked early elections, I know they vary. So I was not going to commit myself to any of those days. And there was no telephone number really that I could see that I could call to find out, well, what are the actual hours at that poll site? Not easily accessible. I was just so upset when I saw the thing without the hours posted. I said, what are they doing? Do they know what they're doing? I'm going to continue being a poll worker, but it's getting harder when we have these kinds of situations come up.
Dorothea, thank you again for your service as a poll worker. Certainly the redistricting and the timing of the redistricting with the court decisions has created complications for a lot of voters, for a lot of poll workers, and I want to thank you for taking the time to lift up that story and share your testimony with us tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We've got two more names on our list of folks signed up to testify. Yolanda Johnson next. Is Yolanda with us? Yolanda, are you with us? If you're ready, please unmute and join the panel and share your testimony.
She appears muted on the side.
Are you with us, Yolanda? If we are waiting on Yolanda, can we invite Kathleen Daniel to share her testimony? All right, Kathleen.
Hi.
Good evening. We see you.
Good
Please
evening.
go ahead.
Thank you for putting my name back on the list. I had to take care of some things before I logged in. So I'm just thank you for taking the time to do this and sit here and listen to a myriad of commentary that isn't all sweetness and light and flowers, right? But this is where the rubber meets the road, and this is how we enact change. So I appreciate your time on this summer evening. I have to echo some of the commentary that was said. So let me first say, I'm Kathleen Daniel. I am born, bred in Boldly, Brooklyn. I've been a community activist for decades. I will not age myself by telling you how long, but I managed the Mayor de Blasio's Census 2020 field campaign, and am just ending my post with New York City's Test and Trace, where I managed the contact tracers that were canvassers. So I speak to a lot of New Yorkers that have met a lot in my line of work. I'm happy to see Nicole Yearwood, champion in the struggle as well, here on this call. And so people, once they find a person in New York City that works for the city and they find a human, they hold on like a vice. Okay. So I get calls constantly about everything because they know I'm going to answer the call. So that said, I'm very happy to have heard my fellow New Yorkers talk about the last minute changes in the polling sites, even on a complex, for example, at NYCHA, or a large building complex in the community. For a senior citizen or a person who has mobility issues, it is challenging if the polling site used to be in building A and then was moved to the community center or down the block around the corner. This is a tremendous walk for some, for those who have difficulty. And consistently, we unfortunately make things harder for the people that need our assistance and support the most. And so why not get golf carts? Why not use the carts or the vehicles that go around the facilities and move staff around and move maintenance around and move the voters around? So we really, if changes happen, errors happen, maybe the lights are off in a building or there's no AC. We understand that that must happen, but then we also need to invest in the resources so that we're not disenfranchising voters because we have to change at the, in real time, a voting site. Additionally, there are challenges still with the speed. The people that I speak with at the Board of Elections are wonderful. I've never had a bad experience speaking to a live person. However, the speed at which people's voting registration is updated and changed is insane. 3 times in a row now, I have changed my address to get it to the correct polling site. And yesterday I still couldn't vote because I still was listed at my old address from 5 years ago. And I don't know what we need to do. I guess I have to go back downtown Brooklyn and in person fill in a card and watch somebody put it in. And sure, I'll bring donuts, guys, not a problem, but I shouldn't have to do that. And what if I wasn't able to take the time out of my workday to do that? I'm also very concerned about early voting. We were playing 3-card Monte with access to the poll sites. Where is my polling site was the question I got 4,000 times. Where is my early voting polling site versus where, oh, I missed it. Where is my actual polling site? And again, we're talking about a redistricting election. So playing 3-card Monte with where a person's supposed to go tells them not to go. And this was the challenge. So if we're going to do early voting, the old adage, if you're going to do it, let's do it right. We've got to keep it simple. And there should be uniformity. So instead of having a 9-day early voting period for a primary, let's do 3 days where the hours are consistent so that a voter knows that no matter what day it is, early voting, election day, it's 6 to 9, damn it. Why is it 7 to 3 over here, 10 to 6 over there, 12 to... Who can keep track of that? I don't remember what I had for dinner last night, and I cooked. And so let's not tax the voters. People are busy, and right now people are disillusioned and disgusted. And so let's not add one more burden. Let's have uniformity. If that means fewer days, but there are days that people can make before, during, or after work, then damn it, let's do it. Why would we not? We can actually do that, because then we could take those resources for days where no one knows where to go and are filling out affidavit ballots that are invalidated because, like Nicole put in the chat, wrong church law, right? Hasn't passed yet to my knowledge. And so instead of wasting that time and effort, let's concentrate our funds and focus them on a shorter early voting period that is uniform and accessible to all. I'm also concerned about our processes. So I'm a firm believer that when process hinders purpose, we've gone completely wrong, and bureaucracy has taken over and humans are no longer run supreme. And here's the challenge with that. The absentee ballot application, and one of the speakers earlier mentioned this, it does not have a place for other. So if my situation, the reason why I'm validly illegally requesting an absentee ballot is not on the form, I have no recourse. So am I supposed to lie? Am I supposed to fabricate this? No, I don't want to commit any sort of fraud. I want to tell you why I need an absentee ballot, right? And that data is going to be helpful in creating a future access or eliminating barriers to access, right? So we need an other. Who creates a form without putting other? So can we get the word other, please, on that absentee ballot form? And then we have an online absentee ballot form where if you check on, I am a permanent voter or permanent resident in a skilled nursing facility, for example, you can fill in that form online, but you cannot submit it online. Why? Because the permanent voter form has to be printed, signed in ink, and then either delivered or mailed to the Board of Elections. But guess what? It's a mystery because you don't know that until you've completed the process and then didn't receive your absentee ballot. And then the day before the election, you're calling an organizer and saying, I can't get out of the bed. I can't get to the polling site. And then guess what? You're disenfranchised. And so can we just, the mayor says it all the time, let's inspect what we expect, right? Because otherwise everything is suspect. And so I spent a day on the phone. And again, thank you to the staff at the, Brooklyn and New York City Board of Elections who were able to help me figure out this process. But a form should not be online with options on it that are not valid if submitted online. So, and then there should then be another form that people can download that say clearly in the instructions, if you are this, or this, your form must be printed and either mailed or dropped off by the appropriate deadline. This is not difficult. And I'm just asking that we constantly let's look at our processes. How hard is it for people to vote? And we're really encumbering the process that is so simple. And I'm not pointing the finger of blame. I'm asking that, and I'm volunteering. I'll be on any advisory board. I'll sit on any focus group and endlessly go through paper and read. And let's look at the processes from a lens outside of those of us that actually have to enforce the process and the procedures, because we're so close in it sometimes, we really can't see that it doesn't make sense, right? Or that a critical step is missing. And then finally, let me say, there has to be a way, a quick hotline, without having to know anybody's name, without having a connection to a commissioner or somebody important, that if you don't get your absentee ballot, that if you didn't see it by this date, at this time, you've got to call here. And how do we get them that absentee ballot? Because the reason people ask for an absentee ballot is because they will be absent from the poll sites on election day. And if they don't get that ballot and have no recourse and no simple way to remedy that, then we are disenfranchising people in simply applying for the absentee ballot. Mistakes happen, delays happen, but this is New York City. There are some people who get their mail in a group and because it's just shoved into a slot and all of the residents have to pick through and sort through. It's easy for somebody to get someone else's ballot. It's easy for a mistake to happen. It's easy for that ballot. Oops, that one just never went out, or there was a misspelling, or there was a typo. It happens all the time. And what I'm saying is, what are our remedies and how does the voter know quickly, simply, and easily how to access that remedy so that they can vote? And there's so much more I want to say, but I won't take your time up. And thank you for listening. And again, I volunteer. You've got all my information. Happy to read tons of policies and forms and help us just delete and add other and instructions that everyone understands. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kathleen. Thank you for joining us for your testimony tonight. Just would love to kind of lift up the, the hope everybody can get ready to make another push for no excuse absentee voting. To help address one of those comments you listed up about filling out that absentee ballot application. Thank you for sharing your testimony tonight, Kathleen. Before we, I know I see Yolanda sort of still there. Raise your hand before if you're willing to share your testimony, Yolanda. Please unmute yourself now. If not, I think we are through our list. I saw her a minute ago, but all right, if you're able to join us and testify, please do. I'll give you a minute. Is there anyone here with us who did not get a chance who would like to share public testimony with the committee tonight? Please raise your hand or let us know in the chat. So if Yolanda, apologize if you're having technical difficulties, but please feel free. We're happy to accept written comments and testimony, at any point when you're able to share it with us. With that, Chair Torres, I'll look to you to close us out.
Yes, I would like to solicit any comments from the members of the VAAC who are present at this moment to comments on the testimonies that you heard tonight, this evening, and give you a minute or so to comment on what you've heard. So it's open. Okay, Danielle.
I just want to say thank you to everybody for coming. We had great turnout. It's always wonderful at these meetings to hear from the public and what happened. And a lot of what you talk about happened to us as well. So it's always nice to know, it wasn't just me or it wasn't just somebody else. So thank you very much, but especially for taking the time. I just want to say again that now more than ever, it's so important for the voters to talk about what's going on so that we can improve things in the future, because as we all know, our democracy depends on it. So I just wanted to thank everybody who came and waited and testified, and also, as always, to thank the staff. It looks like Yolanda's coming in. I don't know if that's going to work, but I did want to take a moment to thank the staff again. And to thank Amy again, and Amanda and Matt and Eric and everybody else, because you all do a tremendous job and just keep plugging away. So that's all.
Great. Christopher, you have any comments for me?
Sorry, I'm trying to unmute. Thank you, Zoilo. No, I'll just second that. It's clear that with redistricting, this is a once in every 10 years. Polling sites seem to change regularly, but at the same time, there seem to have been more problems than what we've heard, or at least I've heard since I became a member of this committee in the spring of 2020. And I think the testimony speaks for itself. I actually, I went to the wrong poll yesterday myself. I had been voting in the same place for years. And when I got there, I was told it was down the street. And so, and I guess I'm supposed to be a super educated voter sitting on this committee and really staying tuned with the Board of Elections. So I'm not sure what we need to do in terms of policy. The referendum, as it was put in the chat, failed about no absentee ballot. that was a statewide referendum. But I think that we need to do everything we can to make voters comfortable with the accessibility issues that we heard tonight. So I hope the CFB will put those ideas forward to the Board of Elections as is mandated. Thank you.
Great. And I want to reiterate that point. There was so much information that was shared tonight, this evening, that I think that it must be in one way or another summarized and transmitted to the appropriate people. Eric, I think that's something that we should talk about at one point. There was a wealth of information. Many advocacy points were made here, and we need to get this information to the appropriate people. It should not just hear it tonight and leave it be. We should move it and move it and make sure that the appropriate people hear it and act on it. As the chair of the VAAC, I want to make sure that and so I need to work with you, Eric, as these very important points of information that were made here tonight, to make sure that the appropriate people hear it and act. Eric, are we finished with testimonies? I see Yolanda, I don't think I ever met it. So do we begin to conclude the hearing?
Yeah, I think the connection was kind of poor, so I don't know that we'll be able to hear from Yolanda.
Okay. All right. I want to thank everybody. I want to thank Amy. I want to thank Amanda, who has been there throughout this whole process. Eric, thank you. You pulled me out of a number of holes, and now, I think I got it. I'm not sure. But as long as we pass on this information and get some things done, and I'm always open to the members of the VAAC for any recommendations or suggestions they have, and I will pass it on and advocate for what's right. So are we signing off?
Signing off. Thanks very much, all.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Signing off.